Welcome back. I'm Richard Hasnout, and I'm your host for the Wisdom Inspired Life podcast and this YouTube channel. Well, this begins and is part of a very special series, and this is a series where I have the opportunity to interview Jose Stevens, who has the Power Paths seminars and School of Shamanism, all the information that you see on the screen here. And these are going to be a series of conversations that I had with him that I think will be quite illuminating. And to an extent, they will give you an introduction to a topic, and you may or may not want to learn more. But if you want to learn more, Jose Stevens has a tremendous set of capabilities and offerings that can do exactly that for you. And you see the information on the screen where you can call the office or email Jose in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So with that said, let's get into the current topic. Welcome back. This is a very special series that we have in conversations with Jose Stevens, who is a remarkable being and resource on this planet. As you saw on the earlier PowerPoint page that I shared with you, yes, he has a PhD in psychology. He's a shaman, and let me just say that that's a very special spiritual practice and insights and understandings that you can understand yourself and help others, and also the ability to access additional perspectives, all in one package of this being called Jose Stevens. So we're very blessed to have him here. In this particular episode, we're going to be talking about something that two words put together that maybe most of you listening to this have not really heard before, and that is soul age. Soul is important because it is that spark of divinity that's in us. And age has something to do with all of this. And trying to understand that and understand ourselves a bit in combination with the two previous episodes that you've had the opportunity to listen to, starts rounding out a more robust, bigger picture of what we're all about. So, time for me to stop talking and pass the microphone over to you, Jose.
Okay. Probably the easiest thing I could begin with is to just ask the people to notice that, in development, we all evolve from in our lifetimes from infancy. And then we move to another stage that we call the toddler stage, and we move to the next stage called the latency child stage. And then we move to adolescence, and we move to adulthood. If we're fortunate, we become elders. We become adults and elders, and then eventually it's possible that we could become masterful. By the same token, there's a famous old phrase that says "as above, so below," which means that everything on a lower level is matched on a higher level. So just as our bodies age and evolve through these stages, we could say the soul or the essence, the core self, evolves as well and remembers more and more and more as it evolves and becomes more masterful. And it goes through the same exact stages that we go through biologically, except in a much longer period of time. Now, I take the point of view that it takes many, many lifetimes to master this thing called being a human being and to master life. People don't have to believe that. It's perfectly fine to believe that you live just once and move on or whatever. But for me, it just makes more sense that it takes a while. And so in looking into that, I could see that there were many, many levels and stages, just like we go through grammar school, we go through first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, and so on. And we go into high school, and then we college, postgraduate, and all that. And it's kind of the same thing in terms of the development of our souls. So, and looking more closely, we can see that it doesn't really matter whether a person is a child in their life or, a young adult or an older person, that some people have great wisdom. And some people, no matter how old they get, they just don't seem to be real smart about the way they live and their values. And, they're prone to using very poor judgment. And, how does that happen? Well, it has to do with their soul age. A person can be 80 years old, but they can be a toddler soul, and they're not going to display a lot of wisdom. But a person can be 12 years old, and they can be a very old soul, and they might be just incredibly wise at age 12. So I've certainly observed that all around me, meeting so many people in my life and traveling a lot and all that. So let's just move through these on a soul level and see what that looks like. So we have infant souls on the planet. There's only about 5% at this time. There's not very many anymore. Infant souls lack a conscience. They haven't developed a conscience yet. And so for them, it's about pure survival. It's me or you, and it's not going to be me, so you die. So we have people that are perfectly willing to kill other people without blinking an eye, and being very destructive, serial killers, people like that. Those are, by and large, those are infant souls. They just don't know any better.
Yeah.
And they're not going to learn in this life not to be that way. So many of them are incarcerated because they get into trouble very early in life and end up in prison for life. So we don't need to talk about those folks too much. We have about 20% population in the world of toddler souls. Toddler souls are very black and white in their orientation. It's, it's good or bad, right or wrong, cops and robbers. Everything is binary. There's no gray areas. There's no nuances. It's all very polarized into that way of looking. It's you're either like me or you're not me, or you're not like me. And therefore I have to write you off because you're not like me. So we find among toddler souls a great deal of prejudice, a great deal of bigotry, a great deal of hypocrisy. It's not their fault. It's just that they haven't learned that there's gray areas and that there's a lot more nuances in life than they thought. They function as a toddler functions. They want to know the rules. They follow the rules impeccably. It's the letter of the law, not the spirit of the law. And then they're interested in breaking the rules to find out what the consequences of breaking the rules are. So you have cops and robbers, that sort of thing. It's like a lot of lessons about making the rules and breaking the rules. And then we move on to the childhood stage, which is all about being king of the mountain. You get in a van full of 10-year-olds, and they're busy, they're so nasty to each other. They're busy, attacking each other and bragging and doing all the stuff that children do at that age. And that's pretty much what success-oriented souls do. He who dies with the most toys wins is the philosophy. It's basically, I want to be the king of the mountain. I'm going to be the richest, most powerful person on the planet. I'm going to be at the top of the pecking order. And I don't care how many people I have to step on my way there, I'm going to get there. And I don't really care about anything else. So for them, everything is appearances. If I can appear to be at the top of the pecking order, that's good enough. I'll eat at all the right restaurants and I'll drive the right kind of cars and I'll look like a success. Therefore, I am a success. It's a kind of primitive way of being in the world. Younger souls like this have a lot of fun in life. They sort of enjoy the games played at those levels. They certainly pile up the wealth and the riches, and so they enjoy the pleasures of life a lot, But in the end, it's very superficial. And then we move on to the adolescent stage, which is all about relationships. So we could call it relationship oriented. And these are people who suddenly they recognize that there's other people that feel the same way they do. And I know how you feel. They're able to feel what other people feel. And once that happens, you can't hurt them anymore. You can't step on them because you care how they feel, because you know how it feels too. And so this becomes much more sophisticated. And you have people that develop a very different set of values, care about the collective more than just themselves. It moves from being selfish to altruistic. And that's a huge step. It's like going from 11 years old to 14 years old. It's a whole new way of being. It's called puberty. And then after many levels of that comes adulthood. And we move into adulthood, and suddenly we're more philosophical. We don't get so myopic. We don't get so intense about what we're experiencing, the great passions that go with that. And we become a little bit more global in our outlook, and we understand the bigger picture. And so we don't mind as much the things that go on, because we realize that they're all lessons and we'll learn from all of them and we'll get through this. That's an adult perspective, hopefully. And then we move from that to being an elder who's very philosophical and no longer participating in those games, but giving advice and teaching and showing the way, being a role model. And after that comes mastery. And then we get the great avatars, the Buddhas and the Jesuses and the, Kuan Yins of the world. And so this is a huge topic. Sometimes people say, well, how can I tell who's what I am or who's who? Well, you look at criteria. You look at certain things like what the person's relationship with food is, what the person's relationship with violence is, what the person's relationship with sex is. You look at a whole number of things, and you have to see consistency throughout. So, for example, an infant soul eats to survive. A baby soul eats the same thing every day, usually bland and overcooked. A young soul eats the fad foods at the right restaurants. They don't care what it is, as long as it's in. The adolescent soul learns to cook really well, many flavors, many spices, enjoys many, many different types of food from around the world. Old souls will eat anything. And elder and masterful souls, sometimes they don't eat much at all because they're kind of beyond food. Okay. So in the same way, we could look at sex. We could look at relationship with violence, less and less and less. We could look at, any kind of category. We'll see the same kind of development, the more sophistication as it goes.
It feels to me like in each of these things, for example, back when in a previous episode when you were talking about an artisan, there's, I'm going to use these words carefully, but there's good artisan behavior and dysfunctional artisan behavior.
Yes.
Just as there is with the soul ages that you're talking about here.
Yeah.
There are those that make whatever level they're at, they do a pretty good job at that particular level.
Yeah.
And what's evolving here, and I would suggest to the listeners that this is the third episode that we've done. If you've listened to the two previous ones, and if you haven't, go back and listen to them. What you're seeing emerge here is this kind of matrix of factors that influence and define who we are as human beings, both functionally and dysfunctionally. And at some point in time, the dysfunction, unfortunately, rises up and gives us a reminder that we've got some progress to make in all of this. So all of that is good. And this is again something that I have found Jose Stevens to be exceptionally helpful in, well beyond the normal resource that you might consider in trying to understand things like these. And this comes from shamanism and other things that capabilities that you have. And again, you're a unique resource in all of this. So I find Soul Age very interesting. Can you just kind of close this? You were talking about the percentage at each of these. Can you kind of close that map off on us so we can get a sense of what the picture looks like?
Sure. I mentioned that 5% were infant, 20% or so are toddler, 25% are success-oriented or children age. Now, right there, we have 50% of the population.
Yeah.
So they represent half of the world.
Yeah.
Right now, that is. And then we have the adolescent category, and those are about 35%.
Wow.
And then we have the adult. They're only about 12 to 15% in there. And then we have the elder category and the master category, and there are so few of them that they don't really have a percentage.
Yeah.
Okay, they're just a very small group.
Yeah, and especially at the top, when God sends down onto the earth the Buddhas and the Krishnas and Jesus of the world to kind of help mankind go, wake up, guys, follow me. This is the right path to go. Those are the few that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, as usual, this is a great overview, and should you want to learn more about any of the topics that we're covering here, at the front end of this presentation, you saw a billboard of how to connect with Jose Stevens should you wish to do that. And at the end, you'll see the same thing. A lot more to be learned. Even though I've known Jose for over 3 decades, I'm actually learning some new stuff here too. So you can teach an old dog new tricks is the story here. Well, good. Jose, thank you very much.
Thank you.
As you can see from that conversation with Jose Stevens, very illuminating. And Jose offers a set of skills that I've not seen with really any other single individual. It's the combination of this PhD in psychology, a shamanic practitioner, and a channel. He has the ability, if you were to have a conversation with him, to provide you more insights and help about your life in an incredibly short time than you can get from any other source that I'm aware of. So if you're interested, there's a lot of ways that you can learn more. So you see the information on the screen that can help you with that. Contact Jose as needed. Well, as usual, if you want to learn more about Wisdom Inspired Life, you can go to the mywisdominspiredlife.com website. There you can listen to the Wisdom Inspired Life podcast. We've got a very great player there, but you can also do it on Apple with their Apple Podcast and Google Play and Spotify and all the other places that you listen to podcasts. You can do that. You can also, on the website, learn about some of my books and a bio on my background. So with that said, as you know, this is a journey and this is a fun journey, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you.